Hey y'all, welcome to 5 Minute Bible Study, where a 5-minute daily journey through the Bible can change your life. We continue our journey through the Gospel of Mark today with the calling of the first disciples, as Mark recalls this, tells us the story. So we're going to look at Mark 1:16 through verse 20. Mark 1:16 through verse 20. As Jesus walked beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and his brother Andrew casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. "Come, follow me," Jesus said, "and I will send you out to fish for people." At once they left their nets and followed him. When he had gone a little farther, he saw James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John in a boat, preparing their nets. Without delay, he called them, and they left their father Zebedee in the boat with the hired men and followed him. Now, what's interesting about this passage is you have just a few of the disciples being called right at the beginning. You have James, and you have Peter, you have Andrew, and you have John. You have the sons of Zebedee, you have Andrew, and you have Peter. And what's interesting here is that these guys, they leave their jobs, they leave their family, they leave everything they have behind. They drop their nets, and they come to follow Jesus. What a great idea for us when we think about discipleship. What are we willing to drop? What are we willing to leave behind in order to follow Jesus? Well, what we have here is Jesus. He's walking beside the Sea of Galilee. He sees Simon, Peter, and his brother Andrew fishing. He says to them, "Come and follow me, and I'll make you fishers of men," or "I'll make you fishers of other people." This calling narrative seems to be something that is pretty distinctive for Jesus. It seems that most teachers in Jesus' day, they don't go out searching for disciples to follow them. Most rabbis didn't go out looking for students. Students came to them and paid money to be part of a certain rabbi's school or a certain rabbi's teaching. But Jesus goes out and finds the people, finds the men that he wants following him, and he calls them. And so it is thus not principally the brothers' detection of some special quality in Jesus that leads to their becoming his followers, as in typical disciple-teacher relationship, but his perception of them, his prophetic vision of what they will become under the impact of his presence. In other words, it's not about what they saw in Jesus, it's about what he saw in them and what he saw that they could bring to spreading God's kingdom. We don't go looking for Jesus. Jesus comes looking for us. Remember, here's the deal. God is always the first mover. God is always the first mover. The only reason that we are able to love God is because he first loved us. He first moved towards us. And in this calling of the disciples, Jesus shows us a little picture of how that works. So they leave at once. They drop their nets at once. And I love that idea. You see this phrase throughout the Gospel of Mark, that the disciples or those who are following, they would go at once to follow Jesus or do whatever Jesus had asked. And this continues to show that theme of immediacy, that theme of quickness that is so prevalent throughout the Gospel of Mark. So they left their nets, they left their jobs. This is their livelihoods. This is everything that they are, to go follow Jesus. What's interesting is it seems that perhaps they knew who he was and he knew who they were even before this calling. And so he saw something in them and they could trust him, and they saw something in him that made them give up their livelihoods, give up everything to leave their families for a little while. We know that Peter seems to he probably was married because he's got a mother-in-law who gets sick, and that's in another study we're going to look at later. So they leave their family and roam the countryside proclaiming the kingdom of God. Later we see the sons of Zebedee and how they were called, and how again they did the same thing. They left the boat, they left their father, and they go out. And this is a radical calling to go and do something that would change history, would change the world. My question for you as you think through this day is, if Jesus is calling you, what are you willing to give up? If there are things in your mind right now that you're saying, I could never give this up, I could never give this up, or I could never give this up, perhaps those things are idols in your life. Perhaps you're dancing on a thread of idolatry there. Jesus is calling us to fully commit our lives and everything we are to Him. Are you willing to do this? Jesus is definitely calling you. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow in another 5-minute Bible study.